All right, welcome everyone. We'll probably have some latecomers come through. Is there some water in there? Is it working?
I'm probably good.
Okay, so welcome everyone. We're gonna go ahead and get started here in the interest of time, and we have a speaker, so I'm gonna go ahead and let him. We're gonna do our usual format, if that's okay with you, going around the room. Is that all right, Alex? So I'm Ginger Marcus. I am a real estate agent, investor first, real estate agent second. Very investor friendly. I speak the language because I am an investor. I had a client that I just met this week, and hopefully he comes to the group. He said he's going to come, him and his wife. But you know, he's like, so you're an investor, so am I competing with you? And I'm like, no. I said, my criteria is like this big. So I'm not out there buying like, 5-10 properties like some of you. I buy like 1, maybe 2 a year at most. And it's like, it's got to fall in to all the, criteria. Anyway, for those of you who are new, I see some new faces in here. Bathrooms are through that lobby area where you first walked in, that big area. Bathrooms are there. If you need some water, if you got a tickle in your throat, I know allergy season, totally understand that. I have for myself. If you go out this door, go right and go left, there's a water container thing. And they're trying to go green, so they got rid of all the plastic cups. So, the disposables, so you have to use one of the plastic cups and then we put it in the dishwasher. And then there's coffee in the back. We don't have food at this event. I don't know, do you have food at yours? Yeah, I was like, you could bring food. Someone brought drinks last time. That's kind of cool. All the way from Sacramento too. He came all the way from Sacramento and then he brought drinks. Does he come to yours? Okay. That's kind of cool. I like that. Maybe one of you guys can bring some drinks. Just kidding. So what I'm looking for is I am looking for multifamily. I think a lot of you guys are. I don't mind if there are a couple of 1-bedrooms. That's totally fine depending on the area that they're in. But any multifamily, could be Reno, could be Carson. I don't really go out to Fernley, so that's not my jam. I did include I coached the new agents in our office. So one of my coaches had this listing that just came up on, is it Abbey Way? And it's only been on the market for a couple days. They've had a few showings and stuff. It needs some work. I can send you guys all the link, which I will if you sign in, and you can see the inside of it. It definitely needs, someone to go in there and totally repaint, re-texture the walls, all that kind of stuff. It's had some renters in there, but it's a 5-bedroom, 3-bath. And I said, is it 3 full bath? And he's like, yeah. And the location is really great. So anyway, you guys think that you might be interested in that, kind of a cool location. That's right where they had widened Pyramid. You guys know how they annex some of the houses right there. So it's it's not one of the ones that got annexed because the road's right there, but it's one of the houses in from there. Obviously you can see from the front picture, it needs some help, needs some love. And, people look at the price. You guys are investors. So when you see asking price, don't let that scare you off. Not afraid to put in a lower than asking offer. Just know he's probably going to get, other investors looking at it. He posted on Facebook though. It's just really kind of funny. He'd probably kill me if I was doing this, but he posted on Facebook and I said, did you post all the pictures? He goes, yeah. He goes, and then there's people, they're just like, they're bad mouthing the house. And I'm like, next time, just put the front picture. Come on in. You heard for the investors group?
Yes.
Yeah, come on in. Go ahead and grab some stuff right there if you want. And so anyway, so I just thought that was kind of funny. I go, next time, maybe just put the front picture. He goes, well, I didn't put the address. And I'm like, well, that's good. But you probably want to have like people, kind of leave a little bit to be wondered or desired for, so they can ask you to show them. And then anyway, we're going back to the raffle, you guys. So we have prizes. Last time it was wine. It's not, or champagne. It's not champagne this time. It's a book. Anyone that doesn't like to read, you can gift it to somebody. And we're gonna go ahead and start off with intros.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And go ahead and fill that out, fold it twice, and I'll pass the bag so you guys can put it in the bags. Does anyone need a pen?
I do. Sorry.
So. let's see. So we're gonna go around the room and introduce ourselves. We have some people that haven't been here in a while, and we have some people that come every month, and then we have some new faces in the group. So I'd like to kind of give everyone a chance so that they know at the end when we network who maybe they want to cross the room to meet. There might be some kind of something wants or needs what you want to share. So if you have a property or an investment, you know, if you have a property that you want to sell or that you're flipping or whatever, you can share that. Or if you have a want, you need a contractor, you need a new property, I don't know, whatever it might be, definitely share that. But we want to know what you want to get out of this group and why you come. Or just your name and hey, I'm an investor, I'm here to learn. We're going to start with you, Bruce. You ready, Bruce? You're up first.
Oh,
You
okay,
gotta
Bruce
share.
Bacon. I'm a real estate broker, been in business since 1971. So everybody doesn't get rich. Sorry, it's relaxed one. Anyways, I've got a vacant residential lot that I've been improving. It's semi-improved. It's got water hydrants for tree irrigation. It's in a very nice neighborhood, 89509. It's $1 million neighborhood, and I'm asking 244.5. Owner will carry, and I will subordinate to construction. So it checks a lot of boxes for people that are looking for the house.
Next.
Believe me, I looked and looked and looked. I've owned this lot over 3 years. And when I bought it, it was the only, no HOA, by the way. So it's still probably one of the premier lots that's not in a planned unit community. So 843-2267. 843-2267 if you're interested. Thanks.
That's your phone number.
What's
Yeah,
nice?
775-843.
Phone number is 843-2267. And do you have the parcel number by any chance?
Yeah, but the address is 3395 Corey Drive.
What's the size of the lot?
Pardon?
What's the size of the lot?
It's about 2/3 of an acre.
And it's in the 89509. Sorry.
Yeah.
Where's it?
It's beautiful. You're welcome.
Christina Lumberhari, been in town since 2002, investor and a broker, mainly single family. Specializing on putting people into homes who can qualify for conventional financing. We do a lot of seller finance deals, trading day properties. We want something better, lots of out of the box stuff. Currently, I do have a horse property available that's 2 acres actually, by border town. It's parcelable. Currently, it has a 1440 square foot 3-bedroom home on it, very cute cabin style, nice views of the property. You got the Cedar California mountains there by border town. Car garage. Initially, I was going to parcel it and put another mobile on it. It would make a great little ranchette for someone at $479. Phone number is 240-2933.
Where is it located?
Border town.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and what I'm looking for is mainly Sun Valley properties, whether they are lots, old wobbly boxes, better stuff. Everybody
Yeah,
knows
old
it.
wobbly
I know a lot of
boxes.
the flippers are not that interested in that criteria, so please give me a call. Thank you.
Awesome. Old wobbly cash boxes.
John Spinola, investor, realtor. And for something different, I have a free and clear property and I will create a note against it, it's worth about 200, create a note for $100,000, 5% interest, 5-year call. And I want to use that as a down payment on your property. Just a little different slant.
Kyle, new to investing and looking for our first deal, so the financial requirements are a little strict. Looking for a 2 to 4 unit, up to $1 million with decent cash flow. It's going to be positive right now for me.
Nice, yeah.
Oh, I'm up.
Yes, it's you now.
Got it, all right. Ray Brown here, new to the group. I'm actually an investor slash financial professional and looking for a multifamily, similar to yours, to the four.
Okay, with like conventional financing or does it matter?
Doesn't matter.
My name is Brandon Thompson. I'm actually partnered with this guy, and so everything that he said, that's what I'm looking for as well. Yeah, ditto. But I'm just excited to just be here and just learn some more and keep growing.
Cool. Are you guys local?
Yes.
Oh, good, okay.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Praveen, new to the group as well. With Praveen also, moved in 2 years ago. For a single family, 1 year ago, since Sparks. Trying to expand to short term or duplex, triplex. So just trying to.
Awesome, very good.
Gaurav Datta here, engineer slash investor, here to network and scale basically. I have some units, but I'm trying to also look for 2 things. The first one is my next house hack, and the second thing is contractors.
Okay.
So I have to do something in my own primary right now.
Wonderful.
Greg Kennan, and really just want to focus on single family homes right now. But knowing that might be difficult to get a cash flow.
I'm Janelle, and I'm an investor primarily, and I'm working on my broker salesperson license. I'm really frustrated with PSI right now, struggling with the Nevada portion. But yeah, I'm here. This is where I get a lot of my energy is from the investor meetings. So
Wonderful.
I'm Colton Loretz. I'm a commercial real estate attorney slash business attorney. Got my first live-in flip recently. Looking for the next year to 2 years-ish timeline. So
Okay.
My name is Ryan Figueroa. I'm pretty new to real estate also. Got about 2 or 3 deals. I'm working on a house hack right now. Finished a flip. I'm looking for 2 things. Private money, of course, and then a real estate attorney. So
Oh, real estate attorney?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. We're gonna go, well, we can go back, we'll go back there.
row.
Yeah, okay.
John Sharp, I'm new to this group. I've been here about a year in Reno, moved here from the Seattle area, and I've been in construction for 22 years as a project manager, construction manager, mainly professionally in the commercial industry, but I've always done a side hustle with flips and investment properties. And so in the last 5 years, I think I did 6 flips. And so I'm looking to do the same here in Reno, and also looking for some private lending. I do have a deal right now that I'm trying to put together for a multifamily. So that's partially owner finance, and so yeah, looking to find some investors, also find some distressed properties that are out there, probably hard to find, imagine. But
Well, the distressed properties are out there, but they're selling for retail, so. they're not-
that's what I'm seeing. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. It's just funny because
It's
people
just-
are, yeah, and yeah, multiple offers. Did you already sign in? Did anyone not sign in? I'm gonna go ahead and pass.
I'm Pat. I'm a wildlife biologist by day and a long distance investor in Missouri by morning and evening, I guess. Anything from small multifamily, or I'm sorry, single family house to large multifamily.
All right.
My name is Jason Lin. I'm here to continue learning and growing. Looking for investment properties, looking at cash flow, some creative financing to leverage. So I'm here mostly to network, communicate, gather as much information, and just continue to grow my portfolio. So right now, just trying to learn as much as I can.
Love it.
John Gomez. I have a couple of investment properties out of state. I'm looking to network locally here and figure out a way how to add to that. By day, I'm a professional land surveyor at a local engineering firm. So if anybody has any vacant land they're looking to parcel off or boundaries on adjustments, that sort of thing, I can help you with that. Yeah, just looking at network. And also, if anybody has a good CPA, real estate minded CPA, I'd be interested in taking a name to help me out in that
How many
department.
people have a real estate minded CPA? Raise your hand. Okay, just look around the room. Got some people right there. Good enough to interview.
Yeah.
They're probably all the
That's
same
awesome.
CPA. They're all using the same person.
Hi, I'm Donna. I've been kind of floating around in the background for about a year, a little over a year now. And just kind of coming back and trying to get serious this time.
Awesome. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Genius Simon.
I'm Skylar Kachurik. Got a couple properties in town. Actually have a duplex up by UNR that would make a great house hack. That's bringing in like 3,200 in rent right now that I'd like to either sell or 1031 into something larger, like a 4 or a 6. But yeah, just here to learn about flipping and the local economy.
Awesome.
Hey, I'm Mike Scandura. I'm an investor. I have a short-term rental here in Reno, and then I invest in Columbus, Ohio, where I was born and raised, 2 to 4 unit properties.
My name is Beth Fremont, and I'm here to learn as much as I can and continue growing.
Awesome. Love it. Okay, anyone want to talk about the market for a minute? Want to talk about the market?
Yeah.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the market? Anyone want to share? Like, what do you think? How do you feel? What have you heard? Have you been to, like, have you listened to any, I don't know, demographer or, specialist that's said something? I know, John, you shared a video recently with me. That was a few weeks back, but I can't remember. So
Are interest rates over 6%?
they're getting there. Not yet. It depends on your credit.
High fives. Just standard regular credit.
Yeah, standard regular credit's high fives right now. Yeah, it's creeping up. So I think we're supposed to have 2 more rate increases for sure.
So for like a
Possibly more.
25 or 35% down duplex or fourplex, like seems like every single person here is looking for, you're talking more like 7. Is that
Yeah, it depends. So I highly recommend talking to not your standard banks and stuff. Obviously, you guys all know that, but just to kind of reiterate it, a mortgage broker is going to be your best bet because they've a good mortgage broker has access to other funds outside of like traditional financing. So they have access to private money too. So you might be able to shop that way. You go to a bank or, mortgage lender that that's all they do. And they aren't someone that can shop outside of their product. But yeah, you're looking at probably 7% as an investor. Still not that bad though, right, John?
For a lot of my investment life, anything in the double digits is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because we're gonna, 2 years from now, we're gonna be like going, I wish I had, I those rates were really good. Because a couple years from now, I believe that they're gonna be close, if not at double digits. What do you guys think?
I just listened to a webinar with Bruce Norris, and Bruce is one of the best economy predictor and real estate predictor. And I just wanted to share that he has a website, www.brucenorris.com. And he was talking about interest rates and affordability. And now.
That was the link you sent me.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
Oh, no, it wasn't Bruce Norris.
It wasn't?
Bruce Norris.
Bruce Norris, wasn't it?
Norris, no.
Okay.
And so I've heard him before, and he's just brilliant. He was talking about what was gonna happen with this market, and when the affordability gets to be 17%, then things are gonna slow, because basically people won't be able to afford the high prices and the high interest rate. So it's gonna be really interesting that things are gonna stop. That's what he's predicting.
Is that the number of people, the percentage that can afford the house?
I'm not sure how he gets that 17%. Do you know, Christina, how he gets 17% affordability? Somebody asked him that.
Well, that sounds about right.
I don't know where but when it hits that point,
Well,
then nobody's gonna be able to afford a house
that's
anymore.
pretty damn low.
It's done in Southern Cal, so.
So I definitely.
Well,
agree
he's
with
in
that.
Florida now.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he moved to Florida.
How many of you guys think we're gonna have a crash? Raise your hand if you think we're gonna have a crash.
We're a souffle that's been underdone.
Somebody jostled it.
Like locally here?
I'm
Or
thinking
like
locally. but
nationally?
Either one, whatever, yeah.
No, it's nothing like 2007.
No.
Totally different. Number one, we've got a job base here that we didn't have in 2007. And similar, we had about the same amount of people from California to buy. So that's the same. And the other thing was, we had a workforce that was generating increases, sort of like the investor class that's buying all these houses and jacking up the rents. We had guys working, in fact, I was working for the company. We were doing 60% of the new housing in the valley. And we did that for about 5 or 6 years. And the guys that were real smart about it and driving up the prices were buying their own homes. They were buying the homes of the builder. And when that builder finished that home, in 6 months, they'd sell it and they'd buy another. And logically, it said to me, as soon as these guys are finished building, we're gonna have a crash. And that was one of the issues that helped our crash along. And so.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said.
Yeah, the video I sent you was Barry Habib, who's won a couple of the, we call it the Crystal Ball Awards, which is basically for prognostication. He's sells his services to the lending industry. Some of the lenders pays about $50 a month for the service. Update every day if something happens. He tells them what to do, lock your loans, don't lock your loans. He's saying we will have increasing the consumer price index is going to go up because that's taken over a year. CPI is 8% or now. Well, that's because of all the rates from April of last year through April of this year. The rates are going up for the next 4 months or 5 months. In other words, the trailing rates a year behind us. So most likely we're going to see a lot of inflation, which is probably going to push that to be sure and then those 0.5% adjustments. Supposedly they're not going to go any more than 0.5%. Probably. But he's predicting by October, we're going to have a big downturn. Not a downturn in real estate, but downturn in that CPI because October a year ago was really low, and so that gets averaged in. He doesn't see any crash coming. He said in general, there's still way more demand than there is supply until we catch up with more of that. In other words, we're eliminating people who have to work for a living basically, and the average person can't afford the average home. But we've got enough influx in Reno from California to support our market for quite a while.
I would say about half of my clients don't even, the companies they work for aren't even here. This is interesting. Yeah. One of them's in Chicago, a couple are in Texas, and they can work wherever they want.
Remotely,
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I was trying to figure that out. Buyers, of my buyers, obviously. So I thought it was kind of interesting. There's a lot of people living here that their companies aren't even here. But then yet we still have a bunch of businesses moving into the area. If anyone went to the EDON event, you know, they had announced, go to edon.org, EDAWN, and there's a nice article in there that's talking about all the jobs coming in and projected to come in for the next 2 years, I think. 2 years, whatever. It's a lot. It's more than it's ever been. And so, you know, we're going to continue to have a lack of shortage, all that kind of good stuff, which is, you know, we still, you know, our days on market are like, our days to contract are like 5 days. So, you know, and a lot of that's because of the shortage. So it's kind of like this weird dynamic that we're in right now. So, which is what causes the prices to go up because this lack of inventory. But there's still, I feel like there's still properties to be had. I'm running across things here and there. Anyway, just saying. They're not as plentiful as they were, but I don't think we're running into a crash here locally. I watch the local market more than I watch everything else. It affects me.
Just a comment for those of us who lived here for a while. To get readjust, we need to readjust what we think is reasonable.
Right.
You know, you look at prices, and it never goes. And then, you know, a year ago, if you told me buy any house and you make 20%, I said, right. And what happened? You know, so I think it's really, I think it's more difficult for people who live here to make an investment than it is for somebody new coming in from somewhere else. I've got some stuff in Ohio, and I'm thinking it's a screaming deal, and I'm sure people there think, how come the prices went up so fast?
Yeah. So funny that you mentioned Ohio. So next month, we're gonna have some investors from Ohio Zoom into our meeting here, and we'll have a panel. So it'll be interesting, just outside of Reno. I thought we'd do something a little different. And their price, that market's just way different than ours. So it'd be kind of interesting just to.
In a couple of years I've been there, single families have gone from the mid-50s into the 120, 130. Which for us is what, a seal.
Yeah.
But, you know, and rents are 700, 800.
Yeah. All right. Well, any other questions about the market? Anyone want to make a comment? Any ideas?
What would you say is the biggest difference from the double-digit interest from back then compared to today? Because the prices of homes were like way cheaper back then compared to what they are today. So,
Do you want to speak to that, John? I think
I
he's
was
the only one in
probably
this room that saw the
thinking,
duct. I was a lender at the time.
fair enough.
Double digits, I was probably making $4 or $5 an hour.
Yeah.
So
That's true, yeah.
If we hit the double digits and is it the same thing compared to back then as it is now?
When it gets to double digits, I think there's gonna be some big opportunities. If we solve the supply problem, because what happened was, we had a lot of seller financing. 'Cause especially when it was 16, 18% or whatever, nobody could afford the payments on that. You go to the seller and say, I'll do a wraparound mortgage or whatever, we'll make, you've got a 6% loan, and I will pay you 8% on your loan plus whatever I'm buying it for. So you make 2% on the money you already you're making payments on, and 8% on your property, you get to sell it. And I get something I can afford. So as interest rates go up and it gets tougher and tougher, if people aren't rushing in to pay cash, which wipes all that out, and they gotta get financing. It's a real opportunity for people who need to sell, for investors to come in and make reasonable offers that work for everybody. So that's what happened when the interest rates went right out of sight. We had such a great market for people to make creative offers that work. So there was a lot, a few years later, there was a lot of people picking those up and taking over that wraparound, whatever. So that kept the market going for quite a few years after that.
So the investors in this room will have a little bit more of an advantage because your average person doesn't know about those creative ways to acquire homes.
Yeah, no, people in groups and stuff will figure it out. It's not a secret. But people are so used to such a cash market that nobody is looking for an alternative way to do stuff. Why should I do something fancy when I can wait 3 days, 5 days, and get a cash offer? You know,
That's right. Why mess with it when everything sells in a week?
Yeah.
You know,
I'm working with a client right now doing something creative, and I periodically have these where I can do something interesting. And his qualification, because he's retired, and only can go up so much, and it's a higher end property, but he can only go up so much, and these people aren't going to budge from their pricing. He loves the property, and I'm like, well, do you own anything else? He goes, yeah, that land that we were going to build on. I'm like, great, let's use it as collateral. Maybe the owner will either that or you can throw that in and trade. And he's like, oh, that's great. So yeah, it's cool. You think outside the box. So at 6:30, we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Alex. Some of you guys probably already know him. Some of you are here because of him. It's kind of cool to see some of the things that you've accomplished and what you're doing now. And just, you know, you've made it happen. And he's so like humble and calm and just chill. So we really appreciate you coming and speaking to our group. I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to get your stuff going here though. We didn't ask the people online. If you guys want to put in the chat, I think we have something in the chat. What is that? But that was the property. And then I'm sure Alex will have a question and answer portion.
Yeah. Share screen.
What was that?
Share
Oh, share screen. Sorry. All right, all yours. Thanks, Alex.
Boys and girls. So, my name's Alex, like Ginger said, some of you guys know me, some of you guys don't. Yeah, I guess a little bit about me before we start. So I came to this meetup 4.5 years ago. My first ever meetup. I was scared shitless to come here. I required to bring a friend to the first 2 meetups I ever went to because I was that scared to come to a meetup. And so I started wholesaling back then, and I did my first deal in January of 2018. Did some wholesales locally here, and I met my current partner, Wes. He was a project manager for a big buyer in town here So that's kind of how we linked up. He would network with wholesalers because he would get bonus at the company if he found off-market deals. So every time I would sell them a deal, I would do it through him. And then I don't know what he saw in me, but he said, hey, we should partner up and do this together. And we can basically do the same job roles. You handle everything, all the marketing and acquisition. I'll take over for project management, and then he was licensed and he would sell the flip for us. So that's what we did. We partnered up in, that would have been June of 2019. And so now we're a team of 6 in the office. And yeah, our company is called Reno Area Home Buyers. Wes has a background, he has his master's in urban planning. He's like the spreadsheet guy, really smart dude. I have a background in parking cars at the Atlantis, and that was my last job before I started here. So, yeah, I'm a big believer in meetups because I met, the people that I met. Pat, I think at the first meetup we ever went to, Pat was just starting out. I was just starting out. But yeah, some of the people that I did my first few deals with, I met like at this meetup in those first 2 that I came to. So after I started getting going, I started my own meetup. So my meetup is I guess the 4th Wednesday of every month. Ginger's is the 3rd. So typically at my meetup, we'll do one month, we'll do like a deal deep dive like we're going to do here today. And then the next month we'll do like a topic like marketing, sales, something. So some of you guys have already seen this deal. Too bad, got to come back to get something new. But this one is really interesting. There's a lot of nuggets in here. We made a ton of mistakes throughout this thing. So hopefully you guys can take some of our mistakes and apply them and don't do them. So how we'll go through this, I have it kind of broken down in sections. We'll go through the entire deal front to back, how we did the whole thing. You guys know that come to my meetup often that I'm an open book. I'll tell you guys anything you want to know about our business. So please ask questions. That's all I ask of you guys. I really like actionable things. If you guys can take nuggets that you can apply tomorrow and make more money, that's my goal here. So yeah, we'll kind of just break it down by section. We can do Q&A at the end and we'll go from there. Does that sound good? Okay, cool. So Cloud Peak, where many things go wrong and it still goes right. That's the story of this deal. So we'll hop in. First thing.
Down. You went down.
I'm going both. Up, down. Okay. Okay, perfect. So we have, I guess our titles are over there. I'm not the PowerPoint guy, but I had the outline done for this one already. And I was like, all right, let's copy it into a PowerPoint. It'll look okay. All right, so first the lead, where we got this lead from. So basically everything that we buy is off market. We buy very little off the MLS, but that was a nugget that Ginger said about that one on Abby. I walked that thing 2 months ago. He called in off of some of our mail. And then he was going back and forth between doing a FSBO or listing it or whatever. So it finally got listed. I offered him $369 when we were talking 2 months ago. I already wrote the same offer when it came up yesterday. So like Ginger said, they listed for $475. It's just the list price you got to take. Can't buy deals if you don't make offers. So you got to make a lot of offers on the MLS. I think we buy literally like 1 out of 100 offers that we make on the MLS right now. So it takes a lot of effort, but you do some work and then you make 40 grand on flip and it's all worth it. So it's volume. And that's how off market deals are too. So with this lead, it came from, we're signed down to Zoom.
I'll just close it.
So this came from texting. We don't really text anymore, but I'm sure you guys that own property have got text messages about your house and it says, hey, first name, would you be interested in selling property address? And that's like super common method for flippers or wholesalers to use for finding off market deals. So back in this era, this was December 2019 when I first talked to this guy. That's what we were doing. And the list that he came off was the tax delinquent list. That's the only deal we've ever done off the tax delinquent list. But It is a sign of distress. So tax delinquent list is one of a few lists that you can get for free from the county. So you can, I don't even remember where to get it, but you can hit up one of the county divisions and get the tax delinquent list. And then there's people on there that are behind on their property taxes, which this guy was. So yeah, send him a text, said, hey, would you be willing to sell? He responds back, and then you kind of open up the conversation from there. So like I said, that was back in December of 2019. So
if tax delinquent list, you only got one, I'm sure you guys have done a ton of deals, you only got one off that. What's a more common place, like list that you're getting deals from?
So everything that we're doing outbound, whether it's texting, cold calling, mail, has to be done in such insane volume to produce any type of actual deal flow that you need a bigger list. And because our area is so small, you know, we only have 500,000 people here. We're not in Phoenix, that's 4.5 million people, where their tax delinquent list is probably huge. Ours is very small. So really the only type of outbound marketing that we do now is direct mail. And in that, the list that we pull is high equity, and that's it. And that's the only filter we put on it. We say you've had to own the property for more than 3 years and you have more than 30% equity, which is everyone right now. So you can imagine that those lists are pretty big. We only mail 5 zip codes in Washoe County, and we send out 18,000 mailers a month. So we can do, you know, 1 or 2 deals a month off of that. So it produces a decent ROI. It's like a 6x for us. So every dollar we spend, we make 6 back. But you can see that it takes a lot to like consistently do deals off.
So you're getting 6x off 18,000 mailers.
The mailers are like 50 on average, like 54 cents a piece. We spend like $9,500 a month on mail. So yeah, it all works. It's just about finding like how long is it going to take to work, how much you have to spend to get it to work, and then you know what you can grow from there. And you know, like our marketing budget right now is 15 a month, but it's like we didn't start there, of course. You know, when I started wholesaling, I did my first deal off of Craigslist. Literally, it was a FISBO, or he responded to my. I went through this story at the last meetup, but he responded to an ad I was trying to build my buyers list, and it's just like, you know, we buy, or I don't even remember what the ad was, but you know, people would respond and like, oh, put me on your buyers list. I'm looking for deals, and he responded to that, and it was someone that had a mobile home in South Lake Tahoe, and I did my first deal off of that. So like, there are ways to do it without a big budget, and then you know, just work your way into the budget once you can. Yeah. Any questions about, I guess, just the lead? Pretty straightforward. We're back to not working.
I think at the angle or something, maybe, I don't know. Really?
What do you do?
Click on, just hit the screen, touch it, and then do it. There you go.
Okay, so follow up. Especially when you're going off market, like all the money's in the follow up. You have to follow up with people, and like it's hard when you have a ton of leads, but especially when you're new, you only have a few leads, paying for the leads, follow up with them until they either sell the property or keel over dead. So that's what I did with this guy. I followed up with him over a year before we even like got into talks about he was serious about selling the house. So I was just relentless and followed up with him a lot. And then he finally got motivated. And you know, that's a good nugget, is that people's situations change. Just because they say they don't want to sell now, they're going to be a seller in the future at some point. So, and sellers lie a lot, like whatever they tell you, you have to take with a grain of salt. You know, some people, no one ever wants to sell, and no one ever wants to sell right now until you go out and meet with them and they're willing to take a discount and they want it sold yesterday. So it's just kind of, you know, with this guy was really interesting because he was, he invented something, because I Googled him. He was pretty well off, and it just goes to show you, like, don't assume, like, you never know people's situations. They're always, someone's always got something going on. So this guy invented something in the early 2000s. I don't want to say what, because I don't want to throw one at the bus, but made a bunch of money. He bought like 4 or 5 properties over in Sparks cash right before the crash. Everything goes down, and then years later he still owns all these things because they're paid off, but you can go on the recorder's website and you can see sewer lien, tax, like he's just horrible with finances. He always catches up, but he never pays his bills. And he lives in Southern California. He runs a business down there. But you talk to this guy and he like, you couldn't talk to him. You have to talk to his girlfriend. And his girlfriend is, and I'm just gonna talk how I always talk because I think that's better. But okay, so his girlfriend, they're tweakers. That's what they are. And you talk to enough people that are, you know, off market and stuff, you take appointments with every type of person in the book. So you can tell a tweaker on the phone because they talk a million miles an hour and it's really hard to follow them. And they call you on 4 different phone numbers within 2 months and stuff like that. And that's exactly how this was. What's that? Oh.
Between midnight and 4 a.m.
Whenever, yeah, you gotta respond when they're there because you can never get a hold of them. So that's exactly how she was. So it's already like getting complicated because you can't talk to the owner. You have to talk to his girlfriend. When you call him, he answers and he's like, oh, hey, yeah, talk to so-and-so. And then he hands the phone to her. So that made it kind of complicated. And yeah, so let me see what I got on the stuff side. There's a lot that goes into this, doesn't think about it more. Okay, yeah, here's the actual situation here. So there was a lot of moving parts with this deal, and when you're doing acquisitions, you have to like really piece things together sometimes when there's a lot going on. This one had a lot going on. So you're talking to the girlfriend, and she's saying, you know, you're just following up with them, and sometimes you don't hear back. I don't think I even heard back from them for a whole year. I'm just like calling, leaving voicemails, I'm texting. I didn't have an email at this time, so I'm just calling and texting the numbers that I had. And then out of the blue, because they were on follow-up, I get a text back finally from the girlfriend was like, hey, she basically told me, she's like, hey, he's hard up for money right now, but he's gonna be getting paid in March. So if you guys want this thing, you should move on it now, is what she told me. I'm like, okay, like, let's talk. So I finally got her on the phone and tried to figure out, I'm skipping around here. This was actually before. I did talk to them before and I knew this situation. And so she was saying that there's squatters in the property. I'm like, okay. And so her friend was the property manager, but her friend put her friends in the property as the tenants. So, but they were squatters. They don't pay rent. They want them out of there. They can't get them out of there. The friend's property managing. And the friend lives in the other house that he owns. It's right down the street. I'm like, okay, give me her number. So I call her, super nice. And I just want to go look at it, see what the condition is. And she's like, yeah, let me coordinate with them and so. Okay. And then you couldn't get the appointment. You could never get the appointment. You call, they never call you back. It was just ongoing like this for a year. And then finally I figured out what the situation was, is that the property manager, there was tenants in there. They were paying the property manager, but the property manager was not paying the owner. So they were both right. To the owner, they're squatters. To the property manager, they're tenants. And that's why she wouldn't let me in there, because she knows as soon as we bought it, she was gonna stop getting paid. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's definitely the situation. So that makes more sense. So you kind of piece this together and then you're just following up with both of them, because I'm still trying to get an appointment. She's the point of contact for entry. And I'm trying to get an appointment, or I'm trying to just contact the seller because he's the decision maker for selling the thing. So finally the dude gets motivated. We start talking to him. Now you can only reach him on email, and that's like once every week he'll respond. And I'm emailing him like every day. And so finally, he doesn't know what to do, but he wants to sell it. You can tell he's like getting close to being done. So I gave him 3 options what we can do here, because he was trying to get us in there. I was trying to get us in there. It wasn't happening. He was getting frustrated. He really needed the money. So I gave him 3 options with the house. And I said, 300,000, we'll take it as is. We don't need to go in it. We'll just buy it from you. You're done. Somewhere between 350 and 380, depending on the rehab. We'll take it with the tenants. We'll deal with the eviction, but we now know what the rehab's gonna be. And then 400,000 plus, depending on rehab, you get them out of there, and then we'll buy it once it's vacant. So I gave him the 3 options, and he was kind of kicking around with it, and I kept following up with him a couple more weeks, blowing me off. And then finally, he writes me back. He said, 325 as is with the tenants, it's yours. I'm like, okay. Sent him the contract and he signed it. let's see. Yeah, here we go. 325K. Rehab, I didn't know. We're guessing about 50. And then at that time, you know, we got a lot of help with the market on this one, but
This is in Reno?
Sparks, yeah. Is over in the Vistas, super nice house, built in 2004, tile roof, stucco, you know, big houses, 3-car garage, like you drive by it, no signs of distress at all. So again, don't assume just because you're in a nice neighborhood that there's no deals there. Like, yeah, they're more common to be in like more transactional price point neighborhoods where, you know, you drive by and like, oh, that thing needs a roof and it looks like it's falling over. Yeah, you probably get a discount on that one, but you can still get discounts on these ones, just depends on the situation. So let me see where we're at in this before we go into escrow. So that was kind of the entire process from the time that we texted him originally to the time that we contracted the deal. And then we got into escrow after that. So any questions on like any of that? Yeah.
So when was the actual contract date? Like how long between when you first reached out to him?
So
So like about
it was
18 months, 2
18
years?
months of before we bought it. I think it was 18 months from the time we originally contacted him to when we owned it. So any questions on all the way up until, yeah.
So I have 2 questions. First one was like, you're saying in the neighborhood, don't necessarily judge the location or whatnot.
Yep.
In this particular scenario, the individual, the owner was just bad finances. So it went to the situation. In your communication with the seller, consistency obviously is what got you this deal. You said you had to go from phones to emails. So how consistent were you in communication? Like once you said you were doing like emails every day, and you were doing like phone calls, or so were you just daily just trying to, or
Yeah,
once
it
a
depends.
week?
It depends how hot the lead is, because you know, if they're gonna ghost you forever, like you're not gonna call them every day. But once she's like, hey, he needs, she literally told me, he needs money, you guys should buy it now. Now it goes to every day, because we have a deal. But before that, you know, it may have been once a month, once every 2 months, just like trying to stay in contact with them when I haven't heard from them for 6 months.
Okay, and then when you found out, then you started kind of daily. How long till you presented the offer, like the 3 different tiers, potentially, like
It was probably another 6 weeks from when she said like, he needs money. And that's only because like, you don't hear from him. You know, you finally like realize that and that's another thing too. It's like, you gotta get all forms of contact. When you have someone on the phone, you might never talk to them again. So you're like, hey, what's a good email for you? Is this the best number to reach you at? So you have that, because different people respond to different things, just like in marketing, you know, some people respond to mail, some people respond to bandit signs, some people go on Google for PPC. It's just a different type of person. So some people love picking up the phone and talking to you. Other people will only text you. Other people will only email you. So if you have all of that and you try all of that, you're more likely to get a response back from them. So at this point, I had all of that. And you're trying like, you know, all 3. We're trying to call, we're leaving voicemails, we're texting, and we're emailing. And then if he responds off of email, I'm gonna just email him back now, because that's how he's gonna respond for now with this one.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did the seller, did he have any issues, or did it complicate the fact that he had somebody embezzling rent from him?
I don't know if they even knew it. I mean, I figured it out because I was talking to both sides. And because the property manager was telling me, oh no, yeah, they're great tenants, they pay on time every month. And then the seller side was telling me, yeah, they haven't paid in 2 years.
So it just went away more or less.
Well, yeah, and then that was part of it. That, I mean, this is the easy button for him. We'll buy it and like, don't worry about anything. So then at that point, it becomes our issue to purchase it and go through the eviction. Yeah.
Did you guys pay cash for the house or did you use any kind of financing?
We're about to get into funding. Next slide. Yep. Funding is very important. That.
What did he buy it for right before the crash?
460, I think. Yeah. 460. Yeah.
So for your lead list, are you
are you honest like with every single lead on that, or just the people that call you back, that call you from your mailing list?
Are we what?
Are you, because you said you're relentless with your follow-up. So do you follow up? Obviously not with everybody on that 20,000 person
No,
list.
no. Just when
So how do
they
you
become a
determine like
lead.
a hot
At
lead?
that point, it's just a list.
Yeah. How do
They
you
call
determine
us
like
and
a hot
expect,
lead?
and if they contact us and don't tell us to F off or like kill yourself, drop dead,
Okay.
then they become a lead.
Okay.
Then we're following up.
Okay.
Yeah, but not, no, we're not hitting up
Okay.
every person, 40,000. Yeah,
Should get
we
people-
should, we get more deals, but.
You get people calling you, stop fucking calling me, all that
Mhm.
stuff.
We have the mailer, it's really funny. It's usually older people, I guess. I don't know if they got nothing to do, but like and everyone always thinks that I'm just mailing them. Like I really want that one house. And so people get kind of snippy on the phone with you sometimes, but that's why we have it go to voicemail instead of live answering those. Because some people are really mad. And sometimes you kind of have to call them back. I used to call back even the mad ones. And like, they're never mean to you once you're just like, hey, yeah, you respond and they're like, oh yeah. Yeah, would you mind taking me off the list after they just lit you up on voicemail? That's how it is. But some people will send the mail back with notes on it. And we have a few hung up at the office. There's this one that she wrote drop dead across it, underlined it, and then she wrote me a note at the bottom. She said, I've lived in this house for 48 years and I would never sell to a carpetbagger. I don't even know what that is. So, and then it was funny because like, I just like envision her taking the time to do that. Like I really ruined her day by getting a postcard in the mail. And then so she writes this out, she pulls out her highlighter, highlights carpetbagger, restuffs it, takes to who knows how she mailed it back. But then like we got that back and Steve, one of our employees, opened it and he thought that was really funny. So then he Googled carpetbagger and he sent in our messaging thing, he sent me like the definition. And I guess the original definition is someone who's from the North in the Civil War era that travels to the South after the destruction to rebuild. And that was seen as like taking advantage. And then now it just means someone who takes advantage of people. So then he found on Google, there's like this big printout we have of this guy and it says carpetbagger on it. And he's like, it's like some shady guy in the Civil War, like has a big like Santa sack full of whatever money, I guess. So that's hung up over my desk. So carpetbagger. Yeah.
That needs to be a license plate.
You guys are ballots, are you guys, is it same list, you're updating it, you're always sending to that same list every single?
Yeah, we've only been doing it for like a year. So it's like a 6-month campaign. So every single month, the owner of the property gets a different piece of mail. And then when the campaign's over, I'll pull the same list and then update it because it does change a little bit. People sell or people move into the list if now they've owned it for 3 years or whatever. So yeah, we do update it like every campaign. Yeah.
What's your buy box criteria? Is it just equity or do you have like a certain like bed bath count as well?
No, nothing like that. I mean, we don't do any of the creative stuff so far. It's just like the one trick pony cash deal. So in that case, like you have to have equity to be able to sell at a discount. So that's why we only do that. But yeah, basically anything that we can get a deal on, we'll take. Yeah. Any other questions for up until funding? Cool. Okay. Let's see. Wait, escrow and funding. So this is how we funded the deal. Private investor for the whole amount plus some. So purchased it for $325 plus all the closing costs, plus all the HOA, transfer setup, all that stuff. And we borrowed $350,000 from a single person. So he funded the whole deal for us. This is done with a deed of trust and a promissory note. Everything's done through the title company. So basically, we have a list of guys that will lend us money. And we go down the list and you send them details on the deal. If they like it, they say, okay. We fill out our documents with their information. Promissory note outlines the agreement, the amount, the return, and the parties. Deed of trust is actually recorded with the county against the property, just like a regular mortgage. So in a doomsday scenario, foreclosure situation, goes to the steps, someone buys it at the steps, the investment is secured by the house. So when you over borrow like this, we're actually getting a check back at closing instead of bringing money as a down payment. So we buy the house and then I get a check for $18,000 in the form of debt to start rehab with. We over borrow like this. So that was a really quick overview on how private money works, but I know there's gonna be questions.
What interest rate?
This dude's expensive. We never use him, only when we have to. So he's 1.12%. We'll get into holding costs in a second. But yeah, we have usually all of our private money guys are right around 10% annualized. So that's how we do. We have a few guys that can do the whole deal for us like that, at least the whole purchase price, sometimes purchase and rehab. And so that's like the easiest thing we can do is just to hit up our lender and they say, okay, and the deal's funded. Other times, we have many more people that have a smaller amount, 30, 40, 50, 60,000. And then how we'll fund those deals, we'll use a hard money lender, like a fix and flip lender. You can find on Google, there's a ton of them, Kiavi, Civic, Anchor. Those guys, if you have any type of experience, they will fund 90% of the purchase. And your terms are pretty decent with them. If you have experience, we get like 1 in 8 for that loan to value. And then we'll raise the other 10% plus the rehab costs from a private investor. And then we'll put them in second position on the deed. So hard money's in first, they're in second. And then we get 100% financing that way for purchase and rehab. See a question brewing back there.
Okay. 325. Now. You have closing costs, escrow, all that. I guess, how did you get to the 350? What does that mean?
Oh, we just said, when we went to the lender, we just asked him for 350.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And obviously, private money is great, but it does take a great deal of trust in you as the operator.
Sure.
So, it's kind of a catch-22. When you're brand new, like no one's gonna want to loan you money. No one's gonna give you more than the purchase price to do a deal with.
Yeah.
When you have experience and you have a track record and like, look at all these deals we've done, then people are more willing to loan you money. But, when we were new, when we did our first flip, we still did it exactly how I just explained. We used a hard money lender. We had worse terms with them. It was like 2 points and 10% interest or something like that because we were brand new, no experience. We had experience, I've wholesale deals before. Wes has flipped properties, but as far as our LLC goes, when you wholesale, you don't take title to anything, and he was working for another company, so they weren't his deals. So we kind of knew what we were doing, but we had never bought anything before. So in the eyes of the lender, we had no experience, but we still got 2 points and 12%. And then we funded that other bit that we needed from a private investor in second position at like 10% interest, something like that. So it is possible to do it. And then when you're new too, it's a good opportunity for like a joint venture. Instead of taking debt, give up equity in the deal. It's not worth it for us to give up profit in the deal because like we have a list of people that will loan to us at 10%. So we're not going to give up 50% of the flip when we're paying for the marketing. We're buying the deal, we're operating the deal, and we're selling the deal. We're not going to give up 50% just for the money because we can fund it. But if you're brand new, something like this, it's like you bring the money, I brought the deal, let's make a baby and do it, and we'll split the profit. So don't be afraid to give up equity just to get your foot in the door and make something happen. Get experience, get paid to get experience on the first one. Any other questions on funding, how we did that?
So for the rehab, you actually went through like online third party, like websites that cater to like they'll look over your project, look over the cost, and then they'll cut you a deal depending on the dollar amount. Is that like do you give them like a quote or like a receipt?
Yeah, so not on this one, not on this one because we're just using a private lender, just an individual.
Okay.
And I go to Mike and say, hey, give me 350 for this deal. He says, okay, that's the deal.
Okay.
That's a private lender.
But like
Now,
the 18K, like the rehab.
That's only because we borrowed more than the purchase price. So if we paid 325, so the way that works, we see we borrowed 350. 350 comes into escrow over here from our private money guy. Seller gets 325 that we agreed on. we have to pay for the closing costs, all that stuff. So when that's all said and done, there's extra money in escrow and we get a check. So we still owe that, it's debt, but we get that money, we put it in our bank account, now we can start the rehab with them.
Got it.
Does that make sense? So we're getting like, 105% financing or something like that, is what we're doing.
Got it.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are throwing out that they're hard money lenders or that they're private lenders. How do you vet somebody? How do you find like really legit people?
What are their terms? And then most of those people, like, they want terms.
Yeah.
Expensive. And so I've talked to some of them, I'm like, oh yeah, we borrow at 10%. They're like, oh yeah, that's not gonna work. I'm like, okay. But I mean, we'll get into holding costs. Like, I don't want to say like the terms don't matter as long as the deal pencil, because they do matter. But especially like if you don't know how to underwrite deals, like as long as your holding costs are in there, all the financing costs are in there and the deal pencils, like, okay, like it's still a deal. Like on that first ever flip we did, we paid 2 points and 12%. It's expensive money, but we had a smoking deal. It was fat. We were confident that we could execute on what we needed to do and flip it, sell it, make the profit without the holding costs killing us. Like we factored in all of that stuff. So we didn't look at the 2 and 12 like, oh my God, that's so expensive, I would never borrow at that. The numbers still worked. The numbers, having cheaper money allows us to buy tighter when it's competition time. And if we were still borrowing at 2 and 12, 2 points on this is $6,000 that our purchase price would have to come down to make the deal pencil. And if you have any type of competition with any other buyers, which almost every single appointment I'm on, I'm 1 out of 5 that's there, you're not going to win on any deals. So that allows us to buy tighter, but if you can't have those terms, like you can still do deals for sure.
People get into trouble because maybe it takes them longer than.
Well, that's what we got into trouble on this one, but we'll get into that. But yeah, it's definite. That's why I want to say like, oh, who cares about the terms? Like as long as the deal works, it's like, yeah, until it doesn't. And then you're paying 12% and you don't know what you're doing. You're halfway through the project and you can't finish it or something, So things can go wrong. You have real risk when you take title to property.
Sure.
But if you know what you're doing, then like, yeah, we borrow and it seems crazy to people that are used to seeing 3 and 4% that we borrow at 10 and 12, but like it works, Any more questions on funding, how we did that?
You think your rates are gonna go up since interest rates are going up?
We've had one of our lenders like pull out because he just wants to see what's gonna happen. But everyone else so far has been, they just want to roll it back in, so we'll see, yeah, maybe, but again, like, we'll just throw in the pro forma. If we have to pay 14, if we have to do it and it still works, like we're confident enough in the operations side that like it'll pencil and we'll do it.
I don't think they'll go up, just because with interest rates going up, that's going to taper inflation. And then, so, I mean, a lot of like lenders will tell me, all right, well, I can make 8% in the stock market right now. And that's not the case the last few weeks, right? So like today I was making a sales pitch to someone, like they're complaining about how much money they're losing. I was like, all right, well, come with me and it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
So I personally don't think they'll go up, but
I just made a video on TikTok about this the other day because some kid, I don't know if it's a kid, I call everyone kid, but he commented and like, can you explain how you use a second? And I will say I don't have that in here. We ended up later when our rehab budget got out of control, we ended up taking a second on this after we already owned it. So sometimes we buy with 2 loans. And in this case, we only had one loan. We were going to cash flow the rehab until it got crazy high. And then we took a second on it. But the point of the video was I was explaining how we funded a different deal, just like I explained it to you guys, 2 loans, more than 100% financing. And then of course, like the people who do it all the time are like, no shit, like that's how we always do it, like good job. And then the people who have never done it are like, you can't do that, that doesn't work. I'm like, all right, you go figure. But so this guy writes back and he's like, can you explain the second loan thing? No lender would ever want to be in second position. And I told him, I'm like, I started off with like, says who? I'm like, that's up for them to decide, not you. Like, that's just a mindset thing. And I was in that same mindset when I started wholesaling. When I came here the first time, when I was like trying to figure out if it worked, I'd heard about it, but it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, who in the hell would take a discount on their property when they sell it? That doesn't, like, that wouldn't work. It's the same mindset, and there's plenty of good reasons, you guys all know, plenty of reasons people would take a discount on their property. Here's a great one right here. Financial distress is one of them, and this is their savings account that they need to access right now, and it happens to have squatters living in it. But the same thing with the lender for that guy. He's like, well, who would take a second? I'm like, everyone that would take a second. Like, but a lot of people, that's what made me think of it. A lot of people like the security, even if it's in second position, of being tied to an asset that's in their backyard, rather than putting it in the stock market like most people do. And like, you know, some people do really great in the stock market. Stock market can also go down by 10% in one day. Real estate can go down, but it's a little bit more slow moving than the market. So it's up for the investor to decide what they want to do with their money. You shouldn't just assume like, oh, that's never going to work because like I don't want to take a second. It's not true. Let them decide. More questions on funding? Funding's always like the hot topic. That
I was just gonna add, we bought a 24 unit in Missouri, and the sellers, who were very well off, like the idea of long-term passive income. They carried 15% of the purchase price and 4% for 30 years. No delay.
There you go. That's how we bought our 4 unit downtown that we use 1 unit as our office. We did seller finance on that. She carried, I think, like 80% of the loan at 4% also. No prepayment penalty, 2-year note. And it's like, we just, how we did that, we backed into it. The thing was so under rented, it was in disrepair. And we're like, they have to only be making like $1,100, and the thing was paid off. But it only had like probably $1,900, $2,000 in gross rents. They were self-managing. It needed every update in the world. It was like, I bet they only make like $1,100 a month. So that's how we got that. We're like, all right, 335 at 3 or 4%, whatever it is, gives them $1,100 a month payment. And that was the pitch. It was like, you guys want to sell this, carry the note. You still get the same amount of income that you got over these years, but you don't have to do anything. And they were like, sold. And we got super cheap debt on that property. But again, it's like, oh, who would want to carry at 3%? It's like, well, they did. It makes sense. You never know until you take a shot. Okay, any more questions on funding? Good on that so far? Cool. Okay, possession. So now we have bought the property finally, 18 months in the making, got it funded, closed on it. Next day, that was my job to go over and door knock the place, and the people in there had no idea that it was being sold, of course. We already owned it at this point, so I went over there, tried to get them, no one was there, went back the next day. So it's all on YouTube. It's called Confronting Squatters. I'll put up a QR code on here. We went undercover. My friend that films for me was hiding in my car, and I wore the mic. It's like a reality show, but we got it. But so I went back. They weren't there again. I was bummed because we were filming. Oh, how many times are we gonna have to come over here? And then we were leaving, and the guy pulls in. I was like, yes. I hop out of the car. So I talked to him, and obviously they were like, just some random person's coming up and say like, hey, I just bought your house. Sign this cash for keys and be out in 45 days. So, you know, you try to be, it's a shitty situation for them, like no matter what, if they knew or not, they didn't know. And so, you know, I approached him as like, hey, we're here to work with you. Like, we're willing to offer you guys $2,000 to help with your move out costs. But like, you know, we're going to have to vacate the property to perform a remodel on it. And they're like, oh, okay. And it's like, okay, well, you know, I'll talk it over with my wife. Okay, no problem. So I left the cash for keys agreement with him. And then the wife starts blowing me up on text. Like, can't believe they would do this. Like, I told them we were going to buy it. Like, we've treated this place like our own. I was like, oh, sweet. It's going to be pretty nice. Hell yeah, I might be a little high on my rehab for $50,000. But yeah, all right, whatever. So they finally like calmed down. She was like, I'm going to talk to my lawyer and this and that. I'm like, okay. And then I should add simultaneously, as soon as we buy the property, we're starting a formal eviction in the background in case this does not work. Because we paying 12% on our money, we do not want to burn up time trying to get these people out of there any more than we have to. So day one, eviction starts, actual eviction, and this is happening at the same time. So obviously if they sign this, everything works out. we're not gonna go through with the eviction. If this doesn't work, we've already started the eviction, we're that much closer towards actually doing it.
What does start the eviction mean?
I've only done it twice, and this one we used a lawyer on, and then the other
Just call them
time
up and
I
say,
did
"These
it.
people out."
No, you have to use a service. You don't have to use a lawyer, but you have to use like, we use like Nevada court processing, something or other. And they were really good, but yeah, they have a few different steps, and it depends if they have a lease or not, or whatever, like the actual steps to do it. I don't know the exact order of things, but that's what I mean by start. Like, we would have to tell them to start it at least.
COVID didn't hit you.
It was during COVID, and that's what that was another risk that we had, and we're like, we don't even know if we're gonna be able to get these people out of here, but like, we'll try. And luckily that didn't affect us in this one. We thought they started going down that path during this time. When they were hesitant, they brought up the lawyer, they brought up the COVID, something or other. I'm like, here we go. And then they came to their senses and agreed to do it. And because she was telling me when she was like, oh, I can't believe they would do this, treat this place like our own. He said he was gonna sell it to me, and then he told me it's like, yeah, I haven't talked to him in 5 years. So that's why I started, like, whenever you're talking to these people, you have to take everything they say with a grain of salt, because someone's lying in that situation. I don't know who it is, but someone was lying. But she's like, yeah, we just got pre-approved. And I'm like, not for this house, because she was like, she told me she got pre-approved for like 300,000 or something. And I'm like, okay, well, this is like a $600,000 house, so like, you're still not gonna buy it anyway. But that's another thing, like, did she just get pre-approved? I don't know. So they were kind of butthurt at first, and then came to their senses. They're like, okay, we'll sign. I'm like, perfect, like, I'll come over, I'll check condition, I'll grab some photos real quick. And then we'll take care of the agreement, and then, you know, we got 45 days or whatever we gave them. Ginger, do you go to the photos right here? And then go to Freeland Walk. Actually, you know what, go back. Because this is when I actually walked it at this time, but I want to show you guys how they actually do before.
You can touch the screen, by the way.
Oh,
if you want.
okay, brilliant.
Get rid of that.
Okay, cool. You can just like scroll through these while I'm talking.
Okay.
So this is, fast forward a little bit after we finally got them out of there. This is how they left it for us. This is, we treated this place like our own, like, I can't believe that we would do this. Well, and I guess that's subjective, you know, some shit, and they may have not been lying in that case. So, yeah, this is kind of the condition that we received the property in, after we went through it. So that by some act of God, in the hottest seller's market of all time, they actually did get pre-approved and buy a house in Fernley. And so they bought a house in Fernley, they moved out, and we got this 45 days later. So this
Nice
one,
job.
yeah, we ripped that out. That was a mistake, but we'll get into that. Yeah. So you guys can see it's, you know, full of junk. And actually, when we moved out, or when they moved out, they didn't accept the $2,000 because she felt bad about leaving so much stuff behind. So I'm like, okay, well, that helps us out a little bit.
Yeah.
That was the last picture.
Okay.
How much would it cost to get all that junk hauled away?
We'll get into that.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was kind of the process of like getting them out of there. Any questions about that? I'm not an eviction expert. I've only gone through one all the way, but we didn't have to do it on this one. But any questions about that stuff? Yeah.
So when you presented it, like you said, you went out, you're like, hey, I am the new landlord. You have to kind of see what contracts you had or existing that they had. When you presented this to them, was it like some kind of agreement, court order, or?
No, the court order is for the eviction. That's the legal stuff, and that doesn't come till months later anyway. What I had was a cash for keys agreement that just says, like, you know, it's a basic like 1-page agreement that says, here's the property address, here's the 2 parties. We're gonna give you $2,000 if you move out by this day. Both people sign it, so that way they acknowledge that they're gonna be out by that day, and if they do what they say, we're gonna give them $2,000.
Because like for example, if I was the tenant, right, and then I had some stranger just rolling up and,
Right.
and I'm like, who's a charlatan? Like,
Yeah,
what do you want?
exactly.
Like, get out.
Yeah,
before I
and
shoot
that's,
you. Like,
yeah, and that's why you have to treat it very, I'm not gonna go up to them and be like, sign this right now, like, I own this now.
Right. So like what
I
kind of
treated-
evidence do you show up with? So it's almost like.
I
you're still
actually didn't
professional?
bring any evidence.
Oh.
That's a good point. I should have, but no, I literally just rolled up and I was nice about it. I was like, hey, I'm not gonna say I'm the owner. I work for the investment firm, so you can always defer back to boss man or partner or whoever if you don't know the answer to something. But hey, I work for an investment firm that actually just purchased this property. They just closed on it a couple days ago. And he's like, oh. Like he didn't question it really, but at the same time, I was just a random person that like stopped him in his front yard.
Right. Okay.
But, and then, like I said, you can't be like too brash about it, because that's a shitty situation for him, like, hey, you're gonna have to be out of here in 45 days, and it's out of the blue, he didn't know it was being sold, anything like that, so that's how I treated it, and I'm like, you know, this is what we can offer to help you guys out with your move out costs. Do you think this timeline is realistic for you guys? What's your plan? Do we have anywhere to go? Tell me about the situation, and then just put it on them. Just like an acquisition plan, we're just trying to like figure out what their deal is and how can we provide a solution that fits, where they're not gonna go now rip out the plumbing as soon as they get inside, and they're gonna sign this and move out amicably instead of having to go through an eviction. That's the goal.
Okay.
And that's the point of the cash for keys agreement, is like, when that's signed, I'm in there taking photos of current condition. So if we go back and the plumbing's ripped out of the wall, hey, that's not how it's left. I have photo evidence. So $2,000's not gonna cover that, but they're not gonna get the cash for keys at that point. It gives them a little incentive not to totally wreck the place on the way out.
Okay.
All right, any questions on possession? All right. Oops, wrong way. There we go. Okay, rehab. So I will do my best to answer questions about rehab and go through it. If you click on that scope, I guess I can click on that. We might have to like minimize here. This is our actual scope. So I'm not the rehab guy. My job is up until we buy, and then it gets passed off. So the things I know about this rehab is that seemingly it was going to be a pretty light turn. It looks kind of scary. It's just a lot of personal property, not that bad. The thing that happened with this, you could probably just scroll this way.
There you go.
Just get these.
I couldn't scroll, I was trying to with this
Yeah,
mouse.
gotta go down here. I don't know how valuable this is gonna be to go through some of this stuff, but the rehab plan originally was obviously trash the place out, do a quick remodel on it, get it back on market. And, you know, you go in, you think 50K, like, that'll get us pretty far in a newer construction house where we know electrical and plumbing is probably gonna be good, has a tile roof, it's stucco, it's in a nice HOA, like 50K budget can go pretty far. And then when I walked it, but like right after we owned it, I was like, oh yeah, we're good for 50. The thing with this rehab is this house was like destroyed, but like low key destroyed. Like hard on equipment is what the people did to it. So like every little thing in the house was broken. So like, that's what Wes was telling me, like, you know, you pull out the drawer, any drawer, they're all messed up. There's nothing that works good. They all look like, oh, we could definitely like, cabinets are good, vanities are good, like refinish them, put tops on and call it good. And then you start getting into it and everything's broken. And then there's like, you know, a little bit of water damage from this. These houses are really weird. They have like two front doors. One goes up around the outside. Right there was like a bunch of water damage. So we had some subfloor repair and then it dripped down to downstairs, but you could see that. I'm like, yeah, it's no big deal. But then like these houses have stairs on the outside. And like, that was one thing I didn't notice, is that those needed to be the waterproofing stuff that the builder put on them in 2004 failed. Stairs had to be totally redone and resealed. There was just a lot of stuff like that. And the job didn't start off on a good note. I think once we walked it, we're like, all right, we could definitely do this for 60. Once we had possession, they actually could get in there. And we had the trash out guys go through that also do demo. And when we got the bill back for that, it was 17 grand. And we're like, for what? We're like, a third of our budget's gone. All we have is a demoed house. And so that's a big nugget for people. Be totally on the same page with your contractors for scope of work. We've had this issue before with trash out, but never this bad. And the issue with this one was the demo. So you're walking it, and again, this isn't me, this is Wes or Steve or whoever did it. you're walking in with the trash out guy, you're pointing out stuff that you want demoed. You know, demo this, all the personal property gone, it's going to the backyard. The deck looked nice. I was like, oh yeah, that's a selling point. But the thing was all like worked out. The whole thing was made out of that plastic shit that they used back then. And so then, you know, you're there, oh yeah, just rip out the whole deck. Okay, cool. And then there's like this old non-functional fountain in the corner of the yard. Yeah, I ripped that thing out. And then it's like the whole place was tile. I demo all the tile. And those three things are what really killed us, because it's really cheap to trash out a property, but the demo is what costs a lot because of the man hours. You got guys in there prying tile. They had 2 guys for 2 days trying to get rid of this fountain. Just, yeah. And then, you know, you rip out the whole deck. So like the bill was just insane for all of that, when seemingly it was just like, we thought it was gonna be like $6,000 for everything, and it was 17. And we're like, oh shit, that's not good. So that was our first mistake with their first nugget for you guys, is be on the same page totally with your contractors. But what, like I said, we've had an issue with that before. House out in Lemon Valley, almost all the stuff was gone. It was just demo, needed a little bit of trash out in the yard. There was an entire barn in the backyard that was full, literally knee high, of like old stuff, pigeon shit, everything. And so you go out there and you're like, we didn't even walk it with him. It was the same guy actually. And we didn't walk it with him. And he's like, oh yeah, it's going to be $2,000 to demo and trash out. We're like, okay, perfect. The way the yard was set up, it was like a yard, and then there was like a gate, and then it went to the barn. He didn't even see the barn. And that was like most of the trash out that needed to happen. So we get the whole thing trashed out and the barn's not done. We're like, hey dude, like what's up with the barn? He's like, oh, I thought that was on a different parcel. And again, it was just not being specific enough with the contractor, not saying like, hey, go walk it and tell me what the bill's gonna be. It's like, specifically, we want X demoed, we want X trashed out, make sure you hit the barn, and then give me your bid that we can approve.
What would you do differently on the property that you're showing? Like, would you have chosen not to rip out the fountain, like just leave it?
Well, we ended up like, they're still there. I don't even know, like, it's kind of there. It's just a pile of rocks now. But you can tell that it was once something. So like, it didn't even accomplish the goal. And yeah, definitely would have just left the backyard completely.
Oh, gotcha.
We wouldn't have demoed the deck, leave it, let the next buyer deal with it. And that's usually what we do on flips anyway. We only touch the front yard, leave the backyard, no matter how gross it looks, except for like trash and stuff, and let the other buyer do what they want to do. So that was like a huge cost. And then, so I don't think we really need to go through itemized here, but it was just like little things that really added up in this property. And, you know, some major repairs here and there. We ended up blowing out a wall. These things are really weird. You guys have probably seen some of them up there in the vistas. They're built like, they're McMansions is what they are, but they're like little castles. They all look like little castles. They got the circular roofs and stuff. And you go in them and they have these like the walls that match that from the outside. So we blew out some walls, really opened it up, looked really nice afterwards. And then, so what was happening at this time? We loaded up on inventory. And at this time, it was just the 3 of us. It was me, Wes, and Steve. And Steve is not like a trained project manager. He's super smart guy. He's like super supportive. He does like all of our admin stuff, all of our HR stuff. And he's managed a couple of rehabs that were like paint and carpet rehabs. So Wes was busy. We just loaded up on some other stuff. And he's like, yeah, Steve's going to take Cloud Peak. You know, it's just going to be a light turn, blah, blah, blah. So Steve takes it and then he gets into this and it's like, he didn't know what to do, really. Wes was not there to like support him enough because we were so busy. So Steve was like doing his best, but it was something that was so much bigger than he had ever done before with no training. And he's just like trying to figure it out. So that was like eating our whole time or the timelines because we couldn't get someone hired. Steve was not used to, usually with our paint and carpet flips, it's like we know where the numbers are going to be. You walk it with the same handyman crew that we always use, and it's just like, yeah, approve the bid, you're good. With something like this, where we have to use a GC for at least part of the job, you have to like go back and forth, you have to bid it, and then you're gonna go back and forth and negotiate with the contractors a little bit. And like Steve was totally uncomfortable doing that, so like no one ever really got hired. Like it was just demoed out. We had owned the house for a couple months, and we had spent $17,000 and all we had was a demoed house. And we're just like, oh, like what's going on? This was supposed to be done in like 2 weeks, projected. So then we had a pass off. Wes is like, all right, I'm gonna take it back over. And then really the job started at that point. So that was another, like, there was a lot of miscommunication with the pass off because then they tried to tag team it for a while and neither of them really had clear job roles defined on like, I'm gonna do this, you're gonna do this. It was 2 people doing a lot of nothing for a short period of time until Wes totally took it over and was like, we need to move this thing. So then at that point, luckily, we got help with the market. So it was great that we were able to make mistakes on this property and still win on it because of the way that the market appreciated. But we saw that and adjusted the budget accordingly. Because it's like, okay, this thing is worth way more than we thought it was gonna be. You see comps start coming out, they're selling for crazy prices. We no longer have to keep this to 60 grand to win on this deal. So we can like go a little bit heavier. And so that's what Wes decided to do. He spent a ton of money in the master bathroom, had it all ripped out as a weird layout. So redid the entire master bathroom. He put heated floors in there. Kitchen, we made look really nice, kept the original cabinets. Actually, we blew out those walls. We did can lighting throughout. It didn't have any. We did fans throughout. It didn't have any. Replaced the AC, replaced the furnace. So we really had like a nice product after, but obviously like the scope of work changed a lot. And that was another mistake that we made that we're not going to do again is like, before we go into the job, it's not like, well, let's demo it and just start the job. We need a finalized scope. This is the plan, stick to the plan. That's what we're doing. Whether it's a heavy rehab or it's paint and carpet and put it back on market. That's the plan. Do that. Huge learning curve with that. So I know that was kind of just an overview of rehab. Like I said, if you guys ask me how much LVP is per square foot, I don't know. But I do know for contractors, whoever needed a contractor, go to Home Depot at 6 a.m. That's what Wes always says. I think we've told you that before, but yeah, that's what he says. He says, go to Home Depot at 6 a.m. And the guys there that are legit, they're there at 6 a.m. You don't want a contractor that's there at 2 p.m. So find good guys, talk to them, and say that you're an investor and you can feed them volume. And that's how we get deals, because usually like we stopped giving out referrals for contractors because even people that give us good pricing and we'll give them to our friends and they give them the FU bid because they know it's a retail transaction. It's only going to be one time. So they charge us 10 grand for a kitchen. They go bid it on their house and it's 30 for the same kitchen. So when you approach a contractor, you're not asking for your kitchen. You're an investor and you do many deals per year and you'd like to open up that relationship and feed them business and go from there.
Any Home Depot? Yeah, which Home Depot?
Any, yeah, just go to any of them. All right, so any questions on like rehab side of things? That was like an overview of the direction, but it changed a lot from when we started.
So your group, you don't self-performing, you sub it all up.
Yeah, everything. We'd still be on the second house if I was doing it. Any other questions for rehab? Yeah.
A question, just a comment.
Yeah.
Most people, when they look at this stuff, they say, well, buy it for this, or we have it for this, and this is how much we make.
Mhm.
The holding cost is what almost everybody misses.
Yep, we're gonna get into that. Oh, yeah. A lot of holding costs on this one. But yeah, that's a good point, is that, you know, a lot of times when people want to get into flipping, they're looking on Zillow and they're like, oh, look at this fixer, 475. I could probably get a deal on that, like 450. Ooh, it's worth 525 fixed up. I could get in there and only spend 15 grand, like put paint flooring in it. But like, that's such a loser deal. Like you would lose money on that all day long. Like the price of Ginger knows, I threw a low ball at her last week.
I'm so sorry.
Hey, you gotta take shots, you know, and Ginger wasn't too mad. She was like, I didn't think it was serious. But some agents will write back and like, my client was highly offended. And I'm like, no, they weren't. You were offended, but your client wasn't. So present it and move on. But the point is that when you look at our numbers, the spread seems insane. Like for that one I offered on Ginger's the other day, like that was a clean property. It's hard for us to win on that because it's just dated, but it's clean. It's not destroyed. But unfortunately, it costs us the same amount to rehab something that's just dated and clean as something that's destroyed, just about minus, systems or what have you. But like if the place had holes all over the walls that would totally scare a retail buyer, like, okay, there's $2,000 in drywall work and we're back to good. Like it's not a big deal, a lot of the stuff. So like with hers, she had it listed for 380. When I comped it, and I probably goes close to that, I bet. I'm
We
like,
lower the price.
eh,
So,
I'll submit again. I was like, manufactured home over there. I was like, I don't really feel comfortable going more than like 390 resale on that. And then, so I back into our offer, it's gonna cost us $35,000 to fix it up. That puts our purchase price, and I had Dave submit on that, that's why it was so low. I was like, yeah, it does seem kind of low. And then, so we were like 80,000 off the list. We were like 300 or 295 or something like that. So like, that seems like a huge difference, but like, when you really add in the holding costs, two sets of closing costs, your sale commissions, financing costs, all this stuff, like we're buying this house, we're putting 35,000 into it and we're selling it for 385. We're only making 30 grand on that. And it seems like we have $100,000 spread, like it's not even close. So you have to really know your numbers before you buy something. Any more questions on rehab? Good for now. There. All right. The sale. Okay. So finally, we're now in November. It took us, I think we bought it in like March or something. Took us all the way to November to rehab this property, get those people out and rehab it. So what we did, we stretched on resale on this one because we're like, this was a pain in the ass. There's no way that we're going to make a little amount on this. And we really didn't have the comps to support a 650 list and like a direct comp. And you guys know what comping is, most of you, but what we're doing is pulling an immediate area around the house. We're looking for like type property, bedroom, bathroom, square footage, stories, that type of thing. And then we're trying to figure out how much we're going to resell it for. So we're obviously doing this before we even buy the property. That's how you back into your offer that way. So when we were finally done, we comped and we had this one that was a direct match comp, same floor plan, and it sold for 575 as is. Like someone had lived in it, had the TV mounts on the wall still. Nice place, but it was lived in. Sold for 575. We're like, yeah, that's not good. But the agent had the square footage underrepresented on that. The way that they have this set up on the assessor website, they have half the square footage as like a daylight basement or something, or a big portion of it. And the agent, like, I don't know what she was on, but she only put the what would be the top floor. So to any buyer, they're like, oh, this smaller house sold for 575. So that actually did end up helping us out, even though it was the same exact house. But since we didn't really have many comps and this one neighborhood is kind of unique and it's just one street, we kind of just pulled the whole area. Even though the houses were built at different times, we're still in like the same area. We have some houses down the hill that are a little bit older, but similar, like, okay, here's a 2-story, same square footage, 3-car garage, tile roof, stucco, a little bit older, different neighborhood, but that thing's selling for 635. Like, as a buyer, take my investor hat off, like, I would rather have our house than that. And that's how we got to 650. So we listed it for 650 in November, which was unseasonably slow this year. And we got 2 offers. Neither of them were very good. One of them was like 10K under and contingent on the dude selling his house, and he hasn't even listed the house yet. And then the other one was a 635 offer with a already going in asking for $3,000 in repairs. And she was like asking us in the additional terms to like install a different shower door. We're like, we're gonna end up rehabbing this property for this lady, but we had nothing else on the table. We wanted to move it. So we accepted that offer. We were just praying that she bailed, because as soon as we got into escrow, that's exactly what started happening. She starts, we're like, here we go. So she bailed, and then we went into contract, or we relisted it and then got more offers. It was like hotter at that time for whatever reason, a couple weeks later. And then we went into contract above list at 655. And that's where, well, we'll get to the So here's our, let's go to. So this is what the house looks like after. Let's scroll through those real quick. So it almost looks the same as the outside. We did paint the outside, but that's what it looked like when we bought it. And these are the stairs that we had to redo out here. That's okay. And then, so we ended up adding that concrete pad in the backyard, and then we just did wood chips around. Pretty cost-effective landscaping, get them for free. Go to like,
Built on a slope.
yeah, it's built like this. So like the front of the house is 2 stories and the back of the house is only 1 story.
So the staircase that went upstairs is the living quarters, and then like the base level is kind of what the garage
Garage,
is.
and then there's
like a
another-
basement-ish.
Yeah, but it wasn't a basement, it's living space. There's a full bathroom down there and like an office and storage and then the garage.
Okay.
So yeah, we did this. You see the new AC down there. There's that freaking fountain that was still there. And, I had to pour that pad in there after we ripped out the deck. Those steps were already in there.
Where'd you say you get the wood chips?
There's a website for it. Someone probably
Chip
knows
drop,
it.
I think.
Chip drop. Yeah.
It's like a national. No, people
No.
have wood. People have wood that they're trying to get rid of all the time.
Caution the baby fast on wood chips. Before you do that, if it has an HOA, check with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It's
that's what
not a
this
half
was.
an acre of wood chips.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta pull them out, yeah. Yeah, good point. And that's actually a really good point for this property in general, is that since we're dealing with an HOA, you do have to get some things approved that's on the outside. Okay, so you guys can see in here, paint baseboards, we did that LVP kind of all throughout except in the bedrooms. This is the downstairs area that I was talking about. They have like an office here. When we bought it, they had like a makeshift wall in here that they were using as another bedroom. Really didn't even touch, I mean, we did the flooring, we refinished the vanity and then the quartz countertop faucet, basic finishes here, but we kind of left this downstairs bathroom. There's the stairs going up. And then this is actually the upstairs. And then here, so this is where there was a weird like circular wall right here, where there was like an entrance over here, a little entrance right here, and then there was another wall that came out this way. So it was like really blocked off, really, really bad. So we blew all of that out, really opened it up, make it look way, way bigger. So this is basically the original kitchen. We did have to get rid of the cabinet because it followed that wall out a little bit. So we just cut that off, kept the cabinets, got them repaired however we needed to do, added the hardware, refinished them, quartz countertops, added the backsplash in there. So the kitchen looks pretty good for saving it at least. Keep it moving. Backsplash there. Here's the living room here. Added that fan in there, added those can lights there. And this is the master here. So just carpet in the bedrooms. And then this is where we did the tile here with the heated floors underneath there. And that only costs a couple $100 to have your electrician come out and do that. If everything's ripped up already, you can just lay the whatever underneath there. And it's like a pretty cool selling point, especially for this price point. Like how Wes described it, this is like for your bougie buyer that can't afford luxury, but they like want that feel. Like they would love the heated floors.
And that's just hooked up to a light switch.
Yeah, it's over here on the wall. We'll probably get a photo of it, but yeah, it's something like that. So we redid this tub, we redid the vanity over here. It used to like stick out in the middle. So just blew that whole thing out and put it against the wall over there. So this is a new vanity. Redid this whole shower. So a lot of the budget was spent in that master bathroom, but it was a great selling point. There's the other bedrooms upstairs, had the Jack and Jill one, basic stuff there. We had a lot of water damage out here in this deck because it was just holding water. It wasn't draining right. So we had to redo all that. We had to redo those stairs on the outside. Laundry's up there. That's it. So that's what she looked like when it was done. So that connects it out of here. All right. So issues, I already went over a lot of these, but just issues and lessons real quick to recap before we get into numbers. Money's in the follow-up. Never would have got this deal if the guy just said, yeah, I'm interested in selling, and then you try to call him and he doesn't answer, and then that's it. Almost every deal that we do is off of follow-up. It's very rare to have someone call in, come look at it, contract, buy. Very rare. Almost all the deals come from follow-up. Mindset for talking to sellers, we went into that, never assume their situation. Like, you don't look at the lead and be, we don't look at the lead and be like, oh, it's in a nice neighborhood, like, it's not gonna be a deal. Oh, the guy said he wants retail for it, it's not gonna be a deal. Like, you have to go, you have to take the appointment and really dig into what their situation is, why they even contacted you in the first place. And like, yeah, 9 times out of 10, it's not a good fit. The cash offer as is, the certainty in the sale, no commissions, all that stuff is not a good fit for people. And then you can refer them to an agent for listing. So like, as an investor, if you're taking acquisition appointments, the person wants to sell their house, just figure out which is good for them and do good by the seller. Like, we're not trying to just like, if I take an appointment and the property looks a little bit worse than this, but good, and the seller is like, yeah, whenever it sells, like, we're whatever, like, they're not really motivated. If I ask them what's important to you in this transaction, they instantly say money, high proceeds. It's not a purchase. It's like, yeah, well, I should just list this for you. That's how you're going to accomplish your goals. Other people, they're like, I have to move yesterday because I just got a job, or like, my wife and I have been living here for 20 years and she just passed away. I like emotionally cannot be here anymore. Like, you're doing those people a favor by buying their house in 2 weeks rather than making them go through what comes with listing when they like, I've had people like crying at me, like, I can't be here anymore. And those people literally want to like pack a suitcase and leave. And that's what they do. And as an investor, that's the option that we can offer them, is because, we could say, hey, we'll have this wrapped up in 14 days, leave anything you want. In trade, we're getting a property that we can make money on. They're getting everything that they want in the sale because the house is truly a burden to them. So like, if you look at it in that mindset, that like, how can I help this person out? Not just like, I'm going to give them an offer and like, oh, well, you'll get way more deals. Options with the seller. Oh, looking back now, I shouldn't have given him those options. He probably had too much information and he couldn't make a decision. I should have done a better job at digging into his situation. It was hard because you can't talk to the guy, but that was his option, the one that he ended up doing. I should have just pushed from the beginning. If he was going down the road, yeah, well, maybe I'll evict the tenants. No, we'll take care of it. This is your option. I should have done that. Buying sight unseen. You have to have a fat deal to do that. We've done it a couple times and luckily we've won on them, but we were pretty confident that we would win on them. We're not going to take a deal sight unseen with a tenant in it for our minimum underwriting. There's no way. So you can do it, but you're going to get a good deal on it. And like, the sellers are usually pretty understanding with that. Like, hey, I'm taking a huge risk by doing that and you're solving a lot of problems for them at the same time. So those are the people that are willing to give you a big discount for it. Eviction and cash for keys, we went over that stuff pretty heavily. Rehab scope finalization, get a plan in place and stick to it. Don't just go in without any direction. The project management pass off, that should have been like, all right, Wes is in charge now, run with it. Here's where we're at. Not like, I'll help you, let's tag team it. And then the holding costs. So I should have pulled it before we came, but I know it was over 30 grand is what we spent in holding costs throughout this whole thing, between the points and the interest, paying 12% on that. And then we took out the second to help with the rehab costs. So we were paying another 10% on whatever that was. So the holding cost was it? It was, I think we bought it in like March of 2020, late March, April maybe. And then we sold it January of this year. So yeah, it was that whole time. So those holding costs will eat you, especially if your job does not go to plan. So that's why all these other things are important, that you really have a solid path forward before you even start.
But in this case, you're also making money with, like you said, the market helped you out.
The market helped us out, and that influenced our decision making here. If we weren't getting help from the market, it would have been a more like, we need to get this thing back on market. How do we do that for as cheap as possible, as fast as possible? The attitude was like, we're so far gone in this job, the budget is not even close. The market has appreciated so much. We've been holding it for so long and we have a demoed out house, like we can spend more, do the job right and still do good on this deal. And that's why we made that decision. So yeah, those are the issues and the lessons that we learned in this deal. So a lot of stuff going on in this one. So final numbers, timelines, lead to close, 18 months. Reload, so we owned the deal for 74 days before we even got to work on it, getting those guys out of there. So yeah, it was probably 20 days or so before they signed the agreement that said 45 days. And then they needed a couple more days to actually close on their house. Rehab was 171 days. Usually we can run the job at about $1,000 a day. So we were expecting like a 2-month hold once we got it. And so you can see that's a lot different than 60 days right there. So that's where the holding costs come into play. And then on market, 50 days front to back, not too bad for going back on market one time. So that one wasn't too bad. So numbers, purchase 325. We ended up spending 120 on rehab, doubled our budget to do it. Sold it for 655. We made 110,000 net on that. So there's my scan.
So you're, sorry, can you go back to that real quick?
Yeah. But, okay, yeah, let's go back there.
So you're 445, so you're 655 minus 445 is 210. So you got, where's that 100 grand go?
So if I pulled up our pro forma right now, we would have purchase price, rehab, all the holding costs, like the financing costs, the insurance, the HOA, utilities, all that stuff.
Okay.
And then we have the set of closing costs on the buy, the HOA transfer on the buy. We have half of the closing costs on the sell, half of the HOA on the sell, and then 3.5% commissions on that 655. And you can skinny it down into 110 was what was left over.
Got it. Okay. Cool.
That's kind of what I was saying. Like, it seems like, oh, we're freaking 445 all in, or we're gonna make 200,000 on it. And you can see we have 90,000 of other costs in there. That's why people lose when they don't know their numbers when they flip, because they don't know that other 90.
Exactly. So just curious, what are you guys paying in like short-term capital gains?
That's a question for Wes. I don't know anything about taxes. I do know that our business is set up that houses are inventory, they're widgets. So we buy a widget, we improve the widget, and we sell the widget for more. So that's how everything is booked. As far as like the taxes, I don't know if it's capital gains or if it's normal income or how he's got it set up. It's at the advice of our attorney and our CPA, how he's got everything structured, but like, I don't focus on any of it. I focus on getting more deals.
So that's a pretty big chunk of that 90 you're talking about.
Yeah, we do set aside every single profit that we make. We put 30% aside. We never end up paying that much because we buy rentals and are able to depreciate it and shield some of that income.
Cool.
But we do save that much just in case. Yep. Yeah.
If you're holding it less than a year and a day, it's ordinary income. They're dealers, basically.
And that's how I understand it too, but I don't understand it enough to say that. And then someone calls me on it like, no, it's under a year, it's capital gains. And that's why I'm like, defer, I don't know.
Talk to your CPA.
Yeah, advise, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so numbers. So here's my scan thing while we do questions, more questions. On there is my links to socials. There's a link in there to submit if you guys want to, if you have some capital that you want to put to work into a deal like this. There's some other stuff on there. So that's how you can find me and contact me that way. But questions about this deal or anything that we do in the business, how we do deals, how we flip, all that stuff. Now's the time. Yes.
Do you invest in rental properties?
Rentals? Yeah.
In this level?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you have any suggestions comment which area should stay out of?
We literally mail every single multifamily in all 5 counties. There's not that many. There's only like 800, 900 people on the list after you account for all the duplicates. So like, we'll buy anything that we can make work. And like, different people have different strategies with multifamily. We're bullish on Reno as a whole, long-term. And this is our business. So it's a little bit different situation than most people that want to buy a rental property for the cash flow. Some of our rentals cash flow, but like, of course we look at cash flow when we buy, but we're really buying for depreciation, other people paying off the mortgage, the equity, appreciation, how we see it, like if we can pick up units, are they gonna be worth more or less in 30 years? Our rent's gonna be higher or lower in 30 years? So like, that's how we're doing it, but we're also not, it's a trade-off. It's really, really hard to keep a condo that you make $100 a month in cash flow on when we could sell it and make 35 grand right now. So it's always that balance of like, do we take the money now or do we hold it for a long term? So like, we don't really want to hold any like single families where that's why we market for the multifamilies to hold those ones. But our underwriting is a little bit different than probably what most people do.
How long do you usually hold the multifamily ones?
We only have a few. We have a 4-unit, a 6-unit, and we have a 5-unit under contract to buy. And then we have 2 single families that are rentals. And we're pretty new. So like we've only bought all of those in the last 2 years. But all of those are like, we're gonna hold these probably forever unless there's like, you know, we could 1031 into something that's better. And a lot of them are like our 4-unit has great zoning where at some point it'll make sense to tear it down and build something cool there. And same with our 6-unit. It works as a 6-unit, but the whole back of the lot is used as parking right now. And that's got the same zoning as our 4-unit, and we could do 12 units back there, no parking requirements, no maximum density. So that's why we bought that one for the dirt in the back. Our college rental was a single family that we bought as a flip. And Wes had the great idea to convert it from a 4-bedroom, 2-bath to a 6-bedroom, 3-bath. And it's basically set up like a mini apartment. All of the doors have different keypads. So we have it on a master lease, but it is set up so you could do individual leases. And like that thing rips. Like we bought for 175. We spent 180 on rehab because we had to rip the whole thing to the studs to redo it. And then we got an appraisal for 505. And so we had a full cash out refi, no money left in the deal. Mortgage payments $1,800 a month, and it rents for $5,100 a month because the kids pay $850 per room for it. So like something like that, yeah, we'll keep that because we do good on that one. But like if that was just a single family and it was renting for $2,000 a month, like we'd just flip it.
Why don't you just do more of those?
We wish we could. We can. Yeah.
Lay every day.
So did you find those deals also, you don't buy from MLS, right?
We try. It's just hard.
So all of those rentals also not from MLS?
The 6-unit was on MLS. We bought that off the MLS, and then 4-unit was off market. The 5-unit's off market. Both the single families were off market. We've only bought maybe like 4 or 5 total ever off the MLS. Yeah. That I can think of, and that's out of 80. So it's very slim, but we also haven't really put much effort towards it until recently. So it's just like weird. Like you make a bunch of offers and you buy a deal or two. If you don't make any offers because you assume that it's way too tight, you'll never buy a deal. You're never gonna buy one. So. Okay, more questions about this deal, about anything in our business, how we operate? Yeah.
Do you remember what the market value would have been on that house once you got to go in and see it?
The
Before
college
you did
rental?
any of the rehab, like what your market value was? I know you paid $325 for it.
On this one.
Yeah.
When we bought, we assumed that the remodel value conservatively was like 525. We were thinking probably more like 550.
Gotcha.
And that was rehabbed, so not in its current condition,
Right.
but you can see that like even in its current condition, we're always buying pretty far under market value.
Yeah.
And that's actually why we feel comfortable taking out so much debt on these properties, like financing 110%, is because even after the 2 loans, we're still way under market on stuff where we could literally just relist it and make 20 grand.
Right.
To flip it like that.
Yeah, there was, I'm in Fernley. There's a house I was looking at, putting an offer on, and it was like, they were asking like 219. It was an estate sale. So I had to go through probate and all that, but I was gonna offer like 229, got outbid. That seems to be happening a lot lately. But they basically, I went in, I did all the pictures, everything, did my repair estimator, all that stuff, and the investor, I don't even know who it was, but they went in, literally painted, put new carpet, cleaned up the countertops, the cabinets, all that, put it back on the market, and they made like 60 grand off of it. Barely doing anything, flipped it in about a month and a half. So
That's what we do.
it's just kind of crazy. That timeline and your holding costs, I think, is where. you can
And,
narrow
and that's the
that
difference
down.
between, I probably know who bought that. You have a pretty good idea, and by that description.
Yeah.
That's the difference between someone that flips as their business at scale versus someone who like wants to flip a house.
Yeah.
So they can take tight deals like that and outbid everyone. And like, they're making decisions based on how they know their business is going to execute. Like, all right, I'll buy this a little bit tighter than I want to just to win on it.
Yeah.
You make the money when you buy it. And then the operations of flipping the house is just a necessary evil to get the money that you've already made. So like, he sees paint and carpet, get his guys in there. He flips
Clean the crap out of
100,
it.
that guy flips over 100 houses a year.
Yeah.
Full-time crews that just work for him. Get him in there, rip that thing, put it back on market, and like, if we can make 25 grand on that, that's fine.
Makes sense. Yeah.
If it's a light turn like that. Now, something that is sight unseen, you have no idea what the inside's gonna look like, and you have to evict the tenants. Even him is not gonna take that for a tight deal. Like, oh yeah, I think I could squeak out 25 on that. You could see how we would have lost if we treated it like that.
Right.
So it's deal by deal, but you can make decisions like that if you're confident in the operations side.
Right.
Which is unfortunate when you're newer, you're not confident. So you really do have to like dig and wait for that like awesome deal. But the point is really like, I got a good quote from this dude that calls himself the Mormon Wolf of Wall Street, because he like, I've talked to him a couple times now, but he's out of Salt Lake, Mormon, comes from a rich family, and I guess back after the crash, him and his partner bought 800 million worth of distressed debt over a few years, and just crazy big deals that they were doing. They were buying huge apartment complexes, like everything was on sale, and these guys were rich, so it was like perfect timing. And he said he did like literally 1,000 transactions, and he messed up on 3 of them, and he went to prison and like white collar crime, and he did 5 years in prison. He just got out like 2 years ago. And I talked to this guy, and he was like, something that my mentor told me, because he was into football, is that can't score a touchdown without the football. And that really stuck with me. That really stuck with him. In what we do, the contract is the football. So like, don't be afraid. As long as you have an inspection contingency, don't be afraid to make offers and lock up deals and figure out if it's right or wrong after you have the contract. If you're always sitting on the sidelines, like, oh, I don't know if this is going to be a deal, like, oh, it's off by 10,000, you're never going to buy anything. You have to make offers. You have to get contracts. It's a sales funnel. Leads, appointments, offers, contracts, deals. You fill your funnel with enough leads, you make enough offers, you will buy stuff. It's just math. No matter how inexperienced you are, if you make enough offers, you'll buy something. Most people never make an offer. So yeah. Yeah. More questions about our stuff, how we operate? Want you guys to leave with something that's actionable, like, all right, this is what I'm struggling with, I can implement something tomorrow.
So that's a great question for everyone. What's one thing that you guys got out of today that you're gonna move forward with?
Yeah, we have to go around the room and say, what'd you learn? No, but really, like,
Bag somewhere. There it is.
yeah, I just want to make sure, because I know like when I was new, like I would have never asked a question. Even if I was like, well, I wonder how the mail works, or I wonder what the numbers are on this or whatever. So I want to make sure like before I go that everyone is like, this is the time, we're totally open book. I'll show you guys anything you want to know about our business. Like just ask if you're struggling with something, if you've wondered about something, how we did it, question about what I talked about, I'll answer it to the best of my ability.
Where does this take us?
This is just a QR code, so you scan it with you point your camera at it, and then it's just a list of links. So there's like my YouTube, my TikTok, my Instagram, the form to be a private money lender, stuff like that.
Okay.
Places to find me.
So if you're afraid to ask the question now, you can go there
You
and sure to ask.
you could surely ask it later, but yes, I'd rather have you ask it now. Yeah.
Where's your meetup?
It's at the Bosma Business Center Downtown. Yep. So we're the only ones in the building. You can't miss it since it's at 6 p.m. Yeah, every fourth Wednesday.
Next week, right?
Yeah, I have a question about your mailers.
Mhm.
What's the most effective wording on how to get investors to actually comment back?
I think it's 80-20 rule, that 80% of it is just sending the mail.
Okay.
We don't there's tons of mailing houses out there. We use one that's called Open Letter Marketing. There's a bunch that do the same stuff and they take care of the mail completely. You supply the list, you choose the campaign, they do the rest. So I don't even adjust, well, we had to adjust mine because I had to put my freaking license on after I got an ethics complaint. But so that's the only adjustment we made, is that I have a disclosure on the bottom that says Alex Ficco is the licensee, license number, whatever, with eXp Realty. If the property is currently listed, please disregard. The rest of it is exactly their template. That it's really simple. It says I would like to purchase your home as is, no repairs, blah, blah, blah. And then they send out, we have a 6-touch campaign. So every month a different mailer goes out because different people respond to different things. So you might have a postcard first month, you have a handwritten letter, you have a corporate style letter with your company logo on it. You have another postcard, different color, envelope or whatever. So we don't even track any of that stuff. Oh, that piece crushed it. I just care if the mail gets sent out because people call on it. So.
How did you separate, so you put on your Reno area home buyers postcards, your license, what are your license numbers?
Just mine, but yeah.
Just yours? Okay.
I read the law differently than they do, but I'd have to go against them. To me, it says, because I'm not marketing for anything that requires a real estate license.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm actually trying to buy your house. The fact that I'm a licensee, I have to disclose it as soon as practicable or something, like when you're on the appointment.
Yeah.
But if you're marketing for being an agent, you have to have your brokerage logo on there, prominently displayed. So I'm kind of in between, where it's it says I'm licensed, but it's not like an EXP piece.
Yeah,
It doesn't really matter to me, but it was annoying that I got a complaint from another agent.
That's
It's
what I've been tossing with my broker.
Yeah.
To figure out how to get them.
As long as you're
that
doing
marketing
right,
piece.
those laws are written for people who are shady and trying to take advantage of people. And like I told you guys, that's the opposite of what we do. As long as you're doing right by the seller, there shouldn't be any issues, but you still have to follow the rules that they set in place to try to get rid of all the scumbags that are trying to take advantage of people. So the seller knows that I'm licensed, it doesn't make a difference to them. I'm not using my license.
Okay.
Or, you can pivot and be like, hey, we should list this. I don't want to buy it. Now I'm an agent. Or I'm licensed, but I'm not your agent. I'm not even gonna, there's no commissions involved here. I'm actually purchasing this from you. Just being clear like that is
So you
all
put
you
on the
need to
postcard
do.
and let them know the first appointment.
Yep. Yep.
In the state of Nevada, are you required to be a licensed contractor if you sell the house within a year? I know that's other states, so it doesn't matter. You go in and do it, sell it 90 days later.
Yeah.
You don't have to be licensed realtor or.
No.
Or
Yeah, you don't need a
contractor.
license to sell your own property that you own. The contractor thing, it's kind of a gray area when you're flipping. Obviously for big ass jobs, we're hiring a GC and pulling all the proper permits because you have to, it's the right way to do it. And then, being licensed and just as a seller of a property, you do have some liability trailing. We disclose everything in the SRPD, seller's real property disclosure, when we sell. But still, some things even in this one, we used a GC for part of the job, and then we are kind of acting as GC for the other part of the job, just hiring the subcontractors directly, just doing project management.
But you're
for
not
yourself.
you're not a GC.
We're not a GC, but anything, if we're moving around electrical, we're
Yeah, you
hiring
gotta-
electricians.
yeah, you gotta hire.
We're not doing freaking guy that's on the levee for 10 hours.
Not the guy
Not
at
gonna
Home
happen.
Depot at 6 a.m.
Way too much
That guy.
liability.
You guys can stick around and network a little bit and you can talk. No, I'm gonna have you.
Oh.
Ryan won.
Hey, thanks.
Congrats, you guys can stick around till